guys, and welcome to The Mix. My name is Maddie Bruce and I'm just gonna cut straight to the chase. Today is Self-Harm Awareness Day and I really wanted to chat to you guys about the road to recovery, how to stop, what worked for me and for others, self-harm alternatives and coping mechanisms. So a brief history of my story of self-harm. I started self-harming when I was around, I think, 14 years old, and self-harm for a good 7 years, I would say. I have now been clean for a long time. Relapses have happened in my recovery, as they do with any recovery, but overall, like, I now make videos on loads of things, but mental health is one of the things that I love to make videos on, especially self-harm, because I'm kind of the other side of it now. So I just want to show people that it is possible to get through it, and it really helps me talking about it. And I'm also not ashamed to show my scars on social media. I don't censor my body. I'm now at a place where I'm not ashamed of my scars, and I think the whole theme around this Self-Harm Awareness Day is starting the conversation, and I just think normalizing scars and just posting pictures as you would and not hiding yourself, it's been something that's been very beneficial to my recovery, at least. I'm just going to be chatting to you about kind of some tips and tricks if you are currently in the midst of struggling with self-harm. Okay, so starting recovery. I feel like this is quite a blurred line when it comes to starting self-harm recovery, because a lot of people think that they're going to be able to stop self-harming and then they're never going to self-harm ever again. Unfortunately, it's not like that. Like I mentioned earlier, you are going to relapse. There comes a point when you're like, I just can't do this anymore. And for me, this was because I was in talking therapy, so I was progressing mentally, and I just kind of got to the stage where I thought I don't want to use the word hassle, but you know, the hassle that self-harm is causing me is not worth it, and I know it's not healthy to do, so I want to try and take that step to recover from self-harm. So I think making that decision in the first instance is yeah, it's a big step. And actually, like, thinking about recovery can be so hard because being in a dark place can be so comforting, and you cannot want to move out from that. Self-harming, it seems kind of bizarre, but it is comforting. Like, it becomes, you know, your habit. It's important with this to then go back, and this is what I did in therapy, go back and learn your triggers. And what I did, I would keep kind of a track, like a diary of self-harm, and so I would see kind of what would set me off. Usually for me, it was people related, if I'd argued with someone, or if I was just feeling particularly bad about something that I hadn't been able to achieve that day, or whatever it was. Because I used self-harm a lot as a form of punishment. I used it as just a release, and usually it would occur for me in the evenings when I was alone in bed, because I feel like that's when all the thoughts just kind of come and like flood you. So work out where it is that you do it the most. And then it's putting measures into place for when you feel those urges. So for me, because I knew I kept the tools to self-harm in a certain drawer, I would put post-it notes on that drawer, just kind of like little motivational things, and then I would actually write alternatives saying like, try blah 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 before you self-harm, and we will talk about alternatives in a minute. In the end, actually, what I found most helpful is, well, this kind of had to happen because I basically got put into a psychiatric unit, and when you go on leave from the unit, they ask your parents to lock all kind of dangerous objects in like away, so you can't get them. So my parents like kind of went through my bedroom and found everything, which at the time I was annoyed at, but if you have the strength to ask your parents to do something like that, I would definitely recommend it, because that did really help. If you do live by yourself, or if you can't ask your parents to kind of make your shops unreachable, or have the strength to do it yourself, I know a lot of people that will, with their go-to sharps, wrap them in sellotape or even freeze them in an ice block. Another thing is, for me, it was almost too easy for me because I had my like self-harm routine down in the evenings. I had a sink in my room as well. I think one of the most important things is to make kind of, say, the cleanup process more difficult for you, so it's more effort, but just not having tissues and kind of the usual things that you would use to clean up around you, and have them elsewhere can make a difference. So I think having a list of things that are going to help you for when the urges do strike are really, really important, because with self-harm, a lot of the time I would see it as a kind of temperature gauge. So there would be the trigger, and then you would feel yourself almost you know, you get into this kind of overthinking headspace and your thinking just kind of spirals out of control. We want to stop this temperature gauge getting any higher, like getting into the red zone where it's kind of like an uncontrollable urge. We want to stop it there by using said methods. Hopefully you'll be able to calm yourself down and it won't escalate to self-harm, if that makes sense. Okay, so alternatives. With alternatives, different kind of emotions require different alternatives. You've got to work out what's going to be best for you in that moment, because there can be so many different triggers with self-harm and so many different reasons you self-harm, and so you want to kind of match the alternative with the emotion. So for example, if you are feeling anger, a lot of the time it kind of release, you want a release emotion. So for something like this, it could be useful to punch a pillow, to, if you can, cry, shout, sing really loudly, dance, you know, get the energy out. If you're feeling kind of disassociated and numb and you're wanting something to kind of bring you back, I think eating spicy food can be good for this, or eating kind of really, really cold food like ice cream, having a cold shower, that's always a really, really good one. Shock to the system. If you're wanting to feel pain, or I guess see something, you know, physical as a result of your mental pain, drawing on your arms, whether that be writing words about how you feel, or using a red marker, or using a red lipstick. Another one is pinging an elastic band on your wrist, or holding an ice cube. Some people actually do this where they will dye an ice cube red. Obviously some of these take prepping beforehand, which is why we circle back to the point, being prepared. It's so important when you are in a better headspace to plan ahead for these situations to help yourself out. Okay, so now moving on to distractions. And these are one of my kind of favorite coping techniques. I had a few favorite form of distractions and I guess this is kind of like an excuse for me to do them. So TV, Netflix was a massive one. I used to always, because it was at night time, it was around the time Family Guy was on, I used to always watch Family Guy and then say, after this episode of Family Guy I will self-harm, and then by the time the episode had kind of passed, the urge had gone. I absolutely love doing arrow word puzzles. You don't really have to think about it, but it keeps you kind of engaged. Or reading. Again, it's difficult when you can't really concentrate, so TV is a really, really good one for that. Or maybe just magazines. Like I just used to literally read like trash magazines with like funny stories. Music is another really, really good one. Maybe make yourself a happy, I don't want to self-harm playlist. And then like dancing around to the music. Honestly, like I don't do this enough. If you're really, really into art, if you're into painting, if you're into drawing, I'm not a drawer, but an artist, but sometimes I would find it really helpful just to draw how I felt on the page, even if that was like a black squiggle. A lot of the time it was just like, yeah, a messy black squiggle pretty much summed up how I was feeling. Animals, oh my goodness, my dog, I don't think I would have got through self-harm if it wasn't for my dog. Try to figure out something that you are passionate about or that you just enjoy doing and do that. I also got into scrapbooking. I would go to like my local arts and crafts stores and buy just really pretty things that I liked and cut things out from magazines, write out quotes. I didn't know. I just stuck things on a page and it kind of came together, and I really enjoyed that. And then another one can be exercise. This can be very difficult, especially when you're depressed and you don't want to get out of bed, but even if it's going for a walk with your dog or a friend or by yourself, I actually find running is like, I've never been a runner, okay, but I find running is so good because I feel like I'm just getting like, I don't know, I'm just getting everything out. I imagine like stamping on my problems as I'm running. And then there's things like yoga, which is so good because it brings you kind of more into the present moment. And sometimes it's difficult to focus when you're thinking about other things and you're thinking that you want to self-harm, but just try and make a promise to yourself that you're going to at least try some alternatives or distractions before you do self-harm. So exercising, sleeping well, socializing, all of these things can massively help keep you well. Good health can keep you in a good place. And it sounds so simple, and I used to hate it when people said to me, just go on a run, it'll make you feel better. No, like not just going for one run is going to make you feel better. And I know it's difficult when you're depressed or you're anxious and you can't just go out and do these things like immediately. It takes time to build up a routine. But once you start kind of focusing on making sure you get a little bit of exercise a day, making sure you're working on your sleep hygiene, I promise you will start to feel better. On the topic of socializing, this is something we haven't even talked about, and this is so important because without my family and my friends that I had when I was self-harming, I would not have made it through. Surround yourself with people you trust and love, because having people that you can talk to about your struggle and about your journey can really help. This is why starting the conversation is so important. And I know it's daunting talking to people the first time you tell them that you are struggling with self-harm, but trust me, in the long run, like I said, having someone, whoever it is, being there and knowing your struggle is so beneficial to you. And it's so important we talk about this, and this is why I'm so open about everything on my social media, because I want to help destigmatize self-harm. I don't think it should be a huge thing. It is so common, and if me showing my scars in one photo can encourage someone else to show their scars, then you know everything helps. The community boards on the Mix are a really good tool for getting that peer support from others who are going through a similar thing to you, because sometimes you may not want to actually speak to people in real life, and sometimes, you know, strangers on the internet can be easier to speak to. Another way in which you can speak to someone about your self-harm is therapy, and I have therapy to thank for a lot. I did CBT and DBT, and honestly, like, they've just massively changed the way I've thought. They've helped me with my recovery, with everything. You're not going there to be fixed, you're going there to talk and to be listened to, and it's important to find a therapist that you work well with. And remember to treat yourself well. You are taking these steps to recovery, you're putting the effort in, and it's so important to reward yourself at the end of it. Say, you know, if I don't self-harm for this long, then I'm going to buy myself this. But on the other hand, what I will say is, please don't beat yourself up for relapses, because they're gonna happen. The most important thing is how you pick yourself back up. Don't think, oh, I've relapsed, this is it, I'm never gonna get better, etc. Just accept that it's happened, move on, and carry on doing what you were doing. So I really hope that these tips and my story have helped you and have given you a little bit of hope. Remember that your urges are not going to go away, but they will get easier to deal with, and they will also get less frequent. If you ever need support, seek it, because it's important. It is important to talk to people. Turn to the people that care about you. And if you feel that you can't speak to them, there are so many charities out there, and the Mix, honestly, the work they do is amazing. All of the resources they have are so great. So if you are struggling, then make sure you check them out. I'm sending love to all of you. I'm wishing you all the best in your self-harm recovery, and I hope to see you soon. Goodbye.
If you're dealing with self-harm and are unsure about what to do next, or if you want to talk about anything else, The Mix are here to help.